Late night happy hour on a Tuesday. Steve Cofield back. Ryan McKinnell is here. What a night. What a night. I'm not sure we're going to do November 3rd. I don't know what the crew is going to be like on November 3rd. Mr. McKinnell, if you can, tweet out our link as we get rolling here. And we're going to get into this will be, I don't know, I'm not going to be insulting and call it a woke show because I think the entire country, except for myself, watched the presidential debates tonight. So I will get McKinnell's reaction using some tweets that I saw, and we'll get more reaction from you guys. I'm curious to hear what the audience heard, saw. We have to get into some Raiders stories. Mask Gate at the Darren Waller Gala last night. We'll get into that. The NBA Finals are on the way, and I know McKinnell has a couple of players that he loves in the NBA Finals, and we'll talk about his beloved Notre Dame. Beloved Notre Dame. It's funny. It seems like the faith-based schools, you can't pray away COVID or pray that you don't get it. So they've been a bit irresponsible, several of those faith-based schools. Cam Dog is in. What's up? Juice LV, good evening.
Yeah.
Juice says Big Mac on a debate night should be fun. Left Coast Mike calling us pimps. Good, my pimps.
With that in mind.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to look at I guess this was the one reason. Yeah, pour your drink. This was the one reason to watch the debate was the props. So maybe we'll pull up the props a little later. Yeah, I saw a lot of this one. Not that Cofield should produce the next debate, but about a mute button. Yeah, I'd be good at the mute button. What is that? Oh, look at you. Look at you.
Fancy.
The only guy who goes next level, right? Here's me drinking. Here's me drinking, right? I'm like, oh my God, they're down to $20 for 24 of them. There's a Bud Light seltzer, my favorite one, the black cherry.
No
so
shame.
McKinnell drops in. He pours some liquor over his giant, like $7 Las Vegas strip ice cube.
It was an Amazon special, the synthetic big block cubes. I did that before quarantine. One of the best purchases I've ever made. You know, Cofield, I don't drink. This is not a joke. I don't drink. I have friends that have known me for 20 years that have never even seen me with a drink. Let me show you what quarantine has done. Hold on 1 second. Steve.
Yes.
Steve, look what this year has done to me, Steve. Look. It's basically, sorry. I'm basically finding myself through quarantine and finding out things that I never knew about myself. It's a very exciting time. I'm tasting the difference between Maker's Mark and Jameson. It's a whole new adventure. And how could I not have a nice big glass on debate night? So let's dive in.
Ryan Carl, I hope joking, saying not this part, but busting his ass in AA, trying to beat this addiction. I think I'm done trying after tonight. All right. We're all drinking more.
I certainly am.
We're all drinking more.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Actually, one of these whiskeys, speaking of AA, one of these whiskeys, Blackened, is the Metallica whiskey, whose lead singer just got out of rehab. I just find that kind of ironic. They're selling whiskey while their lead singer is in rehab. And Ryan, come on, man. You're good to go.
Let's see.
Try the green medicine. That's what worked for me for 20 years.
Some more commenters in. Gil the Thrill is here. Everything's happening, dude. We got the debate tonight. We got the Raiders in hot water. Got the NBA Finals starting tomorrow. Let's see who else is in. Oh, Eli. Creepy Eli is in. By the way,
wow. What's up, Eli?
I have to apologize on video to Eli.
What'd you do?
Well, they changed things over at Pizza Rock for Monday night. The station doesn't have me stay after for the game, so I just leave. And last night was the first night that we weren't doing a party, so I had made plans with the SO, and I was like, I'm out of here. So I left at literally like 5:05, 5:08, and I was on the road. And Eli's like, man, I just showed up. What's going on? I'm like, that's not how Eli talks either. But yeah, sorry, bro. Sorry. And I had made plans with the SO, so I couldn't turn back and get some drinks anywhere. So What can you do? Mr. Tiger Gator, welcome back. You got blocked, but you came up with a new name. All right. Well, it's good to see you. Here's the key. If you change your name on Twitter or come up with a new handle, the material's got to change, so it's not so obvious. Yeah. And you know what? I forgot to include this. We will get to Uncle Dana. We will get to Uncle Dana and his nephew, George Masvidal, later on. So please, I will write it on my notes here in a second because I forget very easily, but I'm intrigued by the Florida tour backed by Uncle Dana and the UFC. Fun times.
The best times.
Yeah. See, the material just doesn't change. Good job, Steve, for getting Mighty Mouse on your show today. Brady, why would you even ask this? Why did he get banned? This material. You're Big Mac, but now you're Mighty Mouse.
Huh? That's so lost. You had Demetrius Johnson on your show?
Oh, maybe he meant Mark McMillan. Okay. Maybe
I'm so confused. Yeah, that's his Mighty Mac, Mighty Mouse.
That's one of those guys. All right. So the debate, I did not watch 1 second of it, I swear. I did follow it towards the end, so I was just kind of following via comments is kind of one of my favorite things now. You can use Twitter to get other people's reaction. I saw this from a former radio star over at the CBS group in town, just to generally describe the debate. Spence called it the UFC occasion of America, #debates. Your reaction to that in terms of, I guess, the conduct and how the debate went down, Big Mac?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it would be the WWE-ification of America. That it felt like more like a pro wrestling promo, right? I feel like we're definitely like living in real time idiocracy, and Camacho is just gonna, kick down the backdrop and be like, "What's up?" and start shooting fireworks out. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much with you though, Steve. I didn't watch all of it. I caught the most dangerous parts. I caught the end of it. It's about what I expected. I remember 2016, Trump was like looming like a giant orange penguin over Hillary Clinton, and he was like doing all this like physically opposing stature shit, and it was corny, right? Tonight he was very petulant. It was very, this is coming from me, by the way, right? I'm a moron, but I think that should highlight quite clearly how insane Donald Trump was. He just talked over Joe a lot and became a screaming fest, a yelling fest, and then it got super racist-y and just, it was wild. I mean, definitely, for better or worse, a benchmark moment in American history.
Yeah, Carvelli says WWE-ification is more accurate.
But Steve, hold on. Steve, I don't mean to cut you off. There is the element of when we say UFC-ification, bang. See if I can do that in 90 minutes. Colby Covington, formerly welterweight title challenger, was sitting like 3 rows behind the forgotten Trump kid, the Trump kid that no one talks about, and then like the crazy Mighty Morphin Power Ranger lady that was like, "We will restore America," and she was like going crazy at that RNC. Covington was sitting behind them, and then obviously Masvidal, I think, which we're going to get to a little bit later, was on the tour with Trump. So I mean, the UFC's never been tied more politically to a single candidate. It happens to be Donald Trump, and that's going to be, let's revisit that in 25 years, how that looks, how the history books look on people who were, hanging out and stumping for Donald John Trump.
All right. More comments. How about the form and the decorum? A lot of people thought that Chris Wallace could control this whole thing. Do you believe that? Because I saw this on Axios, which is a good news site. You get your news quickly, succinctly. Sarah Fisher here says Chris Wallace struggled to control the debate from Trump interruptions. His failure to stop Trump from talking over both him and Biden had political pundits debating whether future debates will need to allow moderators to cut the candidates' mics, which is one of the comments we got on the chat a little bit earlier. Do we need a mute button? Are we at that point where we're so we lack such civility that we have to freaking mute people in a debate?
I mean, when we're dealing with 45, yeah, it might be a good idea. Get a little Tony Reale, hit the pause button when people get a little too carried away, and let's not like two sides this. Oh, like both were children. Trump went in there with a clear sort of motive, modus operandi, if you will, and it was to bully, it was to outshout, it was to outlie. There's no one in the world better at that, and it turned into what it was going to turn into. Would a mute button help? Sure, I guess. But it's really only gonna help. Not help Trump, but it's really only going to be applied to Trump. I think Biden did a mostly okay job. And back to Wallace, despite what people may think or what I've said or what you might think of me, I actually think Wallace is a pretty okay journalist. If that term can be applied to Fox News, I think he believes he's a journalist. I think by and large, he tries to do the right thing. I don't think there's any controlling Donald Trump. I don't think he's never had that in his life. He's gifted, $10 million. And then, some reports now within the last year, upwards of millions and millions, tens and tens of millions of dollars that he inherited from his father. Silver Spoon Trust Fund kid, never had authority, never had to answer to anybody, never had a real job, conned people at every level. He was making ties in shitty fake steaks. He was the host of a reality TV show. It's kind of what he is. And now he happens to sit in the highest office in the world. But in terms of like having to answer to anybody or like having to shut up or not having the power of a room, he is a billionaire. And if he's not a billionaire, he's perceived to be a billionaire. So whenever room he walks into, even before he was president, he's probably the most important person or close to it. Certainly has a shit ton of money. And, money talks. So he's been talking a lot. And he did that, tonight. He just talked over Biden. And yeah, if you want to institute a mute button, go ahead. I don't know what good it's going to do. He'd yell over it, Steve. He would.
He'd yell over it.
He'd be across the
honestly,
room.
I didn't even see the setup. They're obviously in the same room on the same stage, separate.
Yeah, he would literally just yell into the mic across from him. He'd be like, "That's fake. That's fake. That's not true." And that's literally it was insane. I saw Adam Hill, our pal. He tweeted out, or he posted something about, this was a sad day for everybody. There were no winners here. It's tough to say. It's certainly a sad day, and I get why you would say that. But it was in a very public way, in a very pronounced manner, in a very historical setting. Like, we learned about Kennedy and Nixon in those debates in high school, middle school, probably. The historical significance of radio as opposed to television and the way it shaped the election and yada, 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 right? What do you think they're going to be writing about this? What do you think they're going to be saying about this unhinged dude, dog whistling to avowed white nationalists, people that are classified in the Proud Boys as domestic terrorists? It's wild. From a historical standpoint, it's wild. So when Adam says or anybody else says it was a bad day all around, I don't know. He's never been more unhinged, and it's never came in a more historical, more pronounced setting, right? Like, this was a moment where the whole world was paying attention. And in the the history books are paying attention. It's an important moment for our country. And he was, he was Trump. Like, that's one thing. He's always himself. He's always a straight up lunatic. And it's terrifying, but whatever. It's America. We're surrounded by lunatics. Cheers.
I saw a lot of this one. And based on this, are they going to really do two more of these debates? Does anyone want them? And should they call them off? If on the Biden side, if you feel like, hey, you're actually being taken down by the yelling, the talking over, just bail. Is there some requirement? There's no fucking rules anymore. Don't do anything. Just don't do it.
He's not equipped for that. He's not. He's not that good.
You say that's a waste of my time. Just say that's a waste of my time. I'm not. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? Can't make someone do a debate. And it sounded like, I don't know, 50% of the viewers, 60% of the viewers are like, this is an utter waste. Don't do another one.
If you don't, he's going to call you a pussy and call you Sleepy Joe. Going to say, oh, is he sleeping? Where's he at? Was he scared of a fight? He lost the first round and he can't come back for two. He'd equate everything, to a fight, a narrative, and he's weak and he's a coward. He said it tonight. I say in Big Ten football. Everyone laughed at him. This is exactly what we said 3 weeks ago. predicted it. It was a shameless, predictable con, which is what his entire existence is. It's predictable. If you know scumbags, if you know con men, all right. I was thinking about essentially what it comes down to. People want to believe. People want to have hope, whether it's religion or charisma or whatever the case may be. People want to believe in something, and then it just takes not a whole lot of talent. And remember that Fire Island or the Fire Fest documentary on Netflix about that shitty concert promoter? It was like a year ago. I mean, the point was, after I was done watching that, I couldn't believe how willing stupid rich people were to give their money to this guy. Because when I saw him from the moment he came on the screen, and it wasn't a lot of context to it, it was just that dude's weak. He's a con man. He doesn't have any substance, right? That's pretty obvious to a lot of people. But what happens is other things get brought in, whether it be any of the things that I just talked about, but specifically with Trump, it becomes about other things. So in the case of Donald Trump, right? They may know that he's all these things. They may know he's an asshole. They may know he's a racist. They may know he doesn't talk well, whatever, but they like the other things that he's about. So he's clearly running a con, and even a lot of the people that are being con know it, but they don't care because they like all the horrible stuff that he's about, unfortunately.
It's funny when we watch stuff on TV now, and this is part of the genius of some people eroding at the confidence of the media and what they're seeing. I do think things like this. I saw that there were undecided voters who were interviewed. Is there a chance that undecided voters could just be brought in as, actors just to fill the narrative? Are there undecided voters at this time, this close to the election? Really?
There might be. I can't underestimate this country anymore, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really can't. It's a crapshoot, and it's really tough in a global context. Like we understand, and it's been reported, guys, by every legitimate, intelligence agency that Russia, China, etc., they are looking to sow discord, and depending on how much you want to get into it, I mean, it is a pretty successful psyop in terms of the bots, the content farms, a lot of the fake news that we're seeing, the actual fake news, a lot of the Breitbart and all that good stuff, right? Earlier today, Biden with the earpiece, it was completely debunked and it was shared thousands of times on Facebook. It's a dangerous sort of time we're living in. So we live so much on social media, especially now during a pandemic, like we already did before, right? But now a lot of us are spending more time on the internet than they ever did before. And that, I think the messaging of that, again, is potent. And it's not just been happening through the pandemic and this year. It's been happening for a long time. It's been happening for years. So when you ask that question, it's like, what is America right now? And how much of it is real and how much of it is smoke and mirrors? Because if you get out there and you have actual conversations with people, there are very few, at least face-to-face, diehard racists that are like fully on board with Trump and will stump for everything that he says. So as far as there being undecided voters, yeah, I think there probably are. Like the people that were with him right up until the pandemic. And then there's video, and you can't deny it. He was talking about injecting bleach, into your veins to potentially cure COVID. Like, that's real. He said it was joking. You weren't joking. You weren't joking when you looked into the solar eclipse. You're a dumbass. You're an idiot. And you're a con man. And after years and years and years, there's enough receipts compiling that even his most ardent supporters, I think, are feeling a little bit aware. But there is a lot of resolve, and there is a lot of anger, and there is a lot of discontent, Steve, to where, yeah, there's just some people that are never going to be changed, and you can't focus on those people. I do think the debates are serving a purpose. Me personally, I would like to see Biden a little less scripted. Do you know how many times, Steve, you didn't, because you didn't see it, he said a variation of, well, this is how it is. Let me tell you how it is. See, this is how it is. He's still that lifelong politician. I think he's pissed off. I do think on some level he's a servant of the people, sort of, if you can even be that, being a lifelong politician. But I know he's got a mean streak. You've got you're right about that, Steve. Like, there are no rules anymore. You do have to bully back a little bit, right? Because not only is it kind of the only response you can do to a bully. I mean, go back to the schoolyard. If someone's fucking with you, or someone's making your life a living hell or whatever the case is, you either punch them in their mouth or you do something, I don't know, you think of another way to make their life miserable. But you do fight back on some way, right? This isn't the biggest stage. We know what Trump's going to do. You got to stop with the talking points. You got to stop trying to, like a lot of career politicians, they're always thinking about what the people want to hear and what's the best way to say something without offending people.
Right.
You just got to go out there and smack him in the teeth. You have to match him insult for insult. You have to throw his he threw his dead son at him tonight. He made that a talking point. If he did that to me or anybody brought dead family members into the mix, it would be a bad night for that person. And I don't know what I would do. I've never been in that situation, but I know what I would do verbally, and it would be an absolute throttling. And if it was Trump, that's just take your pick of family members you want to ether. The dead bodies that are piling up, Mary Trump's book, the history of racism. Biden can absolutely slaughter him, or maybe that's the issue. He is Sleepy Joe and he can't, because that's a concern about a lot of voters out there. Is this dude even capable of going toe-to-toe with the reality TV show game show host, which theoretically anyone should, because he's an idiot and he's got a 40-year track record of being a con man.
Yeah, back to the undecided voter thing.
Yeah.
Wes throws something in here and says, people talked about Nixon sweating in the 60 debate against JFK for decades. Tonight is now the norm. I don't get the last part. But, isn't there a difference between the impact of a debate in 1960 where the candidates weren't on TV every fucking minute versus today? And obviously with Facebook and Twitter and every other social media platform, these guys are crammed down your throat. They're in front of you all the time. That's my
Are
whole
you
point.
arguing it's less important?
Of course it is. I would hope that debates now are less important. I would hope we've had a ton of, I saw the social media reaction, a ton of people here just like, you're where you are. There might be 5% of the voters undecided. Another person said in the chat, if they're undecided, do you trust that they're actually going to vote?
None of this matters.
Yeah.
I'm talking about historical record. I don't care if Trump wins again.
Right.
This night, this moment, like so many moments before it, will stand as a benchmark in history. So if Trump wins and COVID continues for 2 years because he's a fucking idiot and he doesn't care about anybody but himself, and this economy continues to sink and things continue to be the way they are, which they've been this way since he really stepped onto the scene, started talking about Mexicans were rapists. Then he was like, about the handicapped reporter, right? I was scorched earth when he did that. Everyone's got their limit. So, if it happens, it happens. But from a historical context, Steve, this is the most important debate in the history of America, because we had a complete unhinged white nationalist lunatic on the stage doing what we knew he was going to do. And if we co-sign this and we're like thumbs up to it now, come on, man. We're irredeemable. You can't come back from that. You can't.
Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the comments. Yeah, I saw that Dana Bash called it a shit show, said that live on CNN.
Yep.
Razorback Scoop earlier said, will undecided voters actually go to the trouble of voting? I don't know.
I was South Park, douche in a turd sandwich. I smoked weed all through college. I cheated through high school. I don't give a fuck about politics. Right?
Right.
If this dude could change me, I voted in 2016 for Hillary Clinton. I hated Hillary Clinton for 20 years. Way longer than most people hated Hillary Clinton. I didn't give a shit about Benghazi because I've been watching my friends being shipped over to Iraq to be sacrificed for 15 years. Boo, Benghazi. I didn't care about that. But back to my original point, I didn't like Hillary Clinton. I never voted in an election in my life. But this dude got me motivated. I hope there were 10 people tonight that saw him completely unhinged and were like, yeah, I guess I'm going to vote now. I know it's almost incomprehensible for most of us to imagine, right? That there could be people on the fence, but I do believe there are, because there are.
Yeah. Mark and LV says Biden trying to come across as an everyday man. That's the whole farce of this. They're both terrible candidates, and Biden was a terrible selection. He's not believable. So again, we're faced with, like you said, with Hillary, we're faced with the best of two evils. And
I want to be clear. Yeah. Go ahead.
That is an indicator that we've got a really fucking broken system. That that both sides in a two-party system keep putting up candidates that are freaking not desirable. Like who after watching tonight, and again I didn't watch, but I didn't get the vibe that people are excited about one side or the other.
No,
It was
no.
they are depressed.
Yeah.
But you can't change the system overnight. But I would hope that whatever happens in this election, that down the road people are like, man, we got to get more diversity. We've got to get younger. Dudes who are like my fucking parents' age. My dad can't hear anymore. Not to be mean, but would I ever look at my parents as serving in the highest office at this age? And and frankly, from a generational standpoint, they're actually more with it than my grandparents were. Like people are getting, healthier as they get older. They're more with it in their 70s, but this is absurd. Mm-hmm. To me, that's the most depressing part, is that this is what we're being offered. This is what the system produces. This is terrible.
Yeah. But still progress is progress and a step in the right direction, right? Like sometimes you don't get on, just one bus to get to the stop that you need to get to, right? Sometimes you got to go to 4 buses. Sometimes you got to get on the L train, take the blue. It's not always a direct line to where you need to get to, right? Joe Biden is a metric fuck ton better than Donald Trump. And that's not a political statement. I don't like Joe Biden, but we have to keep this in context. We have to. It's imperative, because what we don't want to do, what I don't want to do, I can't speak for you. I don't want to feed the narrative, right, of the douche and the turd sandwich, the apathy, I guess there's just no point. They both suck. Yeah, kinda. But Joe Biden, he has done a couple okay things. He doesn't have a perfect record on race. He's not a perfect individual. Again, I don't like how he conies up to corporations, and he's a crony capitalist by core. He's a Republican, really. But again, I don't care about that. Let's just take a breath, reset, get back to the good old warmongering American ways that I know of the last 30 years. Can we please reset this and have some semblance of normalcy? But then again, Steve, and not to get too far off course, but I do think there will be a period of, I don't know how long, of that, like MAGA, like the red flag and the red hat and the whole imagery is going to stick with us for years. It's going to signify.
Win or lose. This is not clearing up. It could get actually worse for a while. Trump will still have immense power if he's not president, just through social media. And the fact that China and Russia and others using social media to brainwash people, only expose them to people who are around them, the same likeness. So, I don't know. This is interesting from Truth from Duluth. POTUS is the least effective thing in your life. Vote for your local candidates. I think he has a lot of effect. Obviously, senators like Mitch McConnell, Pelosi, numbnuts from California there. Schumer. That has massive effect. And when scumbags like Michelle Fiore can actually get office, over and over and over again, the local candidates matter as well. Your Clark County commissioners matter. Your reps in this state matter.
I'll just say this.
Your fucking judges matter. Your sheriff matters. All that stuff.
People in Switzerland, Germany, Russia, Zimbabwe, China, Japan, everywhere in between don't know who the governor of Nevada is, but they know what Trump is. They know what he says. And you have people believing in other countries his words, and it's sowing discord, right? He's a symbol now, and he's a symbol of a lot of bad things. So back to that original point, Truth from Duluth. I do agree generally in almost every other year in the sentiment of what you're saying. The biggest change happens at the local level. And I do agree with you, by and large, not these last 4 years. This dude has come to signify our entire country. And I've been seeing that a lot, like a lot of infighting with, like, I got friends in Kentucky that are like, I can't believe what my state is this. I got friends in Florida. Oh my God, I can't believe, Florida's turned it. We're the laughing stock. And I try to put everything into perspective, guys. America is the Kentucky of the world. America is the Florida of the world, right? They don't give a shit about our states and who runs what. Right. Trump is a giant racist fascist, and we all embody him. And when you couple that with with our recent history of spending a lot of money on war, it's a really bad look. And we have a lot of work to do as Americans. And yes, locally, all that stuff does matter for sure.
And Brian is right.
And yes, Brian is right.
There's so much power wielded by federal judges, and McConnell first and now Trump have really worked going back years and years and years to change the look of the federal judges. So that impact, that's not going to go away anytime soon. That'll be felt for a while. So I guess the most explosive part of the debate was this moment. How was the question actually posed about white supremacists during the debate?
Wallace did a great job and was like, hey, will you disavow at this point white nationalist movements, the Proud Boys, et cetera, et cetera? And I mean, I don't know if we have audio, but that's exactly what he said. He said, he's like, I will tell them to stand back and stand by. And holy shit. It's not hyperbole. I know I'm a loud guy. Yeah. Big woke, big Karen, whatever you want to say. It's guys, that's the shit Trump does, right? Cutesy nicknames. Woo, give a cutesy nickname and minimalize someone down. What I'm saying is it's not up for debate. It's not opinion, right? This shit is dangerous. It's dog whistling. It's racist. And he's absolutely saluting white nationalists. It's not even up for opinion. This is a bipartisan issue. He told the Proud Boys to stand by. That's it.
So what do you think is going to happen if he loses? How big is this group, the Proud Boys? How well armed are they? Will law enforcement take them down? Is there anything that exists that is Antifa? Will we have war in the streets?
No.
Will Trump will Trump be more clear if he loses and say, go get them? You know what? Go get those people who want to move into the suburbs, because obviously that's another one of his dog whistles, is talking about the suburbs disappearing. And I'm curious from the chatters too.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Listen, Steve.
Is there anarchy in the streets? Are there, hundreds of thousands of these Proud Boy militia types who will just go into POC neighborhoods and just start trying to take people out? And what will be the reaction to that?
No. There's not hundreds of thousands of them. I think it's basically a fringe movement. They do have some organization. You've seen them out there, but you've seen the will of the people. Let's just go back to 2016, the Women's March, the marches against Trump, right? Those were every American major city, every single one. And then they extended into every basically major foreign city, from Paris to London, to Munich, to Zurich. There were mass protests. And I'm not talking about, a couple dorks with tiki torches in Charlottesville talking about blood and soil and Jews will not replace us. I'm talking about millions of pissed off human beings in the streets with their middle fingers up, right? At the end of the day, they can't match that. And that's the will and the good of the people. The Proud Boys are racists. They stand on the side of a celebrity racist game show TV host, treasonous president. And if he loses, which I mean, most likely is going to happen, we do have checks and balances. And if he does start a campaign of trying to cast doubt or float conspiracy theories about ballots or whatever horrible shit you can imagine is going to happen in about 40 days, and it will happen, I think and I hope you'll see some of those Republican senators and congressmen start changing their tune and actually stand up for America, because that will not be a battle, literally or proverbially, that they will win. It's just not going to happen. Because why? And I do think there's a lot of truth in this. Is bad for business, right? The dollar speaks louder than anything in this country. And if you had something like that, it would be a complete shutdown of the economy. So, I mean, maybe you could view that as like something that they might want, but I hold out hope that we're still on the right track and voting still matters. And hopefully a night like tonight motivated a few people like we talked about who were on the fence.
Interesting. I'm looking through the comments to my questions about riots and will these guys that President Trump just told to stand by, will they start, rushing into neighborhoods trying to kill people? And no one really seems to think it's a reality. There will be trouble on the streets no matter who wins. My guess is that the folks who back Biden actually will go out, protest, will break things, potentially loot. My guess is the Trump backers will get in trucks and drive down streets, and that's about all they'll do. But maybe it is going to go next level. Because I don't know what the vitriol that'll be stirred up by the Trump side will do to people. So there's still a small part of me that I think there will be some of these folks who will go out and try to kill others, try to start trouble. So there could be mayhem beyond, what you're describing, but I'm not sure. I don't know. We'll see.
Steve, it really just depends on what the reaction is from Trump, right? The concerning thing is he has floated crazy ass conspiracies about, mail-in ballots not being effective and they're not to be trusted and there's mass voter fraud and conspiracy happening. It's just not factual, because if you vote illegally, you can go to jail. It's kind of like rape cases or sexual assault accusations, right? You don't really get fake ones thrown out. No one ever really thinks about that. They happen. I don't want to misconstrue that, right? They happen. You hear about something and then maybe someone was set up, whatever. But by and large, those people are punished, right? And I think about this often with like a guy like Barack Obama. Now, I didn't like Barack Obama, right? But I'm sure there were people that wanted to take him down and wanted to, sabotage his career. He was never accused of sexual assault or rape, not once. No one once tried to bring him down or torpedo or lampoon his career. Donald Trump, over 30 times. You don't just risk that. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Just had to throw that in there.
Another general overall view of the debate. Lou DiBella from Boxing said during that 90-minute shit show that disrespected the intelligence of the American people. Trump was authentically himself. Trump is unfit to be POTUS. The biggest takeaway tonight, the president refused to condemn white supremacists when directly asked to do so. All right.
Completely agree.
That seems to be a big theme.
Steve, not only did he not condemn him, he said stand by. He literally essentially told them to stand at arms and be ready. And okie dokie.
Who will lead them?
The host of the Celebrity Apprentice.
Will it be? No, I mean, who will, as they're standing by?
He will lead them via YouTube, and he will be like, all right, my army and minions of virgins, go out there with your plastic shields and all your, tiny dick energy. And fucking, they're not going to do shit. Everyone in this country is strapped.
What if they're called to arms? What if they're called to arms and they're led to the street by Donald Trump Jr., Eric Trump, Ted Cruz? You think those guys will be on the front lines? No.
Oh yeah.
That was dripping with sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is that DJ TJ would actually put Guilfoyle out front and be like, you should do it.
Nope.
You're very energetic. Go ahead.
Junior would do it. Junior would do it. Junior would sacrifice himself for anything to get on the right side of his father, right? You're like, Daddy, look at me. You love me, right? He would be there with a spear bleeding out and he just, like, Dad, do you love me now, Daddy? Oh, Junior would absolutely do that. If Donald Trump told his son to go out there and chop off his hand, he would do it. Everyone would.
What do you think about this one? I saw some media people were bothered with this, that the coming out of this debate, that both sides were an issue, that both sides were attacking and name calling, both sides were personally attacking. Let's see, both sides traded barbs.
Dude, he went after his dead son, and Biden barely flinched. He was like, woosah, rubbed his ears, and he like gave a measured, composed response. Like, what do you say to that? Steve, sorry, not to cut you off. I know you had the headlines and the graphics. The dude did as well as he could without ripping his fucking throat out. Like, what? Name calling? I don't know what Joe Biden's supposed to do. Right. I thought he needed to be much more vicious. If that was name calling, he needs to ramp it up.
All right, well, let's move on to the big local story with the Raiders. And it comes on it started to develop last night before the story with the Titans. So I'll get your reaction first to the Titans. What do you think about what's gone on here with the Titans? Now they've got 3 players, 5 coaches with COVID. Titans are shut down, can't go to the facility until Saturday. Vikings are shut down TBD, might be earlier in the week. So now we've got the Titans and Steelers on hold. We've got the Vikings and Texans on hold. And we talked about this on the air, and we're like, right now, I don't think there's anyone to go after. Like, generally we want to find someone to blame. The guy Shane Bowen, one of the assistant coaches of the Titans, had it. Who knows, man? He could have gotten it anywhere, right? You let your guard down a little bit. It doesn't mean that you've been irresponsible, you're a moron, you're an anti-masker, or you're a COVID hoaxer. But it did spread through the team. But it also, it falls under the overall umbrella of a couple of weeks ago, coaches not wearing masks clearly on television on the sidelines. And now we've got this Raider thing where they're at a gala last night, fundraiser for Darren Waller, and the entire room had no mask on. But first on the Titans, what's your reaction to the Titans and how big a story this is? To me, this is gigantic. And if Raj Gradell is going to fine coaches on TV for not wearing a mask, they're going to fine him $100,000. That he's got to, this is the time to drop the fucking hammer if you can drop the hammer.
Yeah, I like that a lot, Steve. I think it's well said. I think my first initial reaction with the Titans in that situation was, okay, predictable that if you have a non-bubble situation where you're asking people to be responsible for themselves. And again, I hate to be so callous because you could get it from an Amazon delivery. You know what I mean? It's not like someone went out and necessarily was careless. I mean, you could have taken all the precautions and still gotten sick. So my first reaction was that this was not surprising. I honestly expected to happen a little bit earlier. I see this comment here from John Carvelli saying the season won't finish. I said the season wasn't going to start months ago, Steve, here on this show. So I don't disagree with that, John Carvelli. My issue is when you say the season won't finish, and I go back to 3 months ago when I said the season wasn't going to start, I'm very concerned that we're just kind of getting over it, like where we're just adapting to thousands of people dying each day and the death toll rising and no one giving a shit. And guys, your initial reaction to that might be, well, that's not true. It's yada, yada. It is true. I'm an American. I was 16 in 1999 when Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris shot up Columbine, right? I have watched. Sophomore year, we got ID tags. That's what we had to print ID tags with our faces on them and numbers. It was ridiculous. But I've seen the response, right? It's never actually about the people. They don't give a shit about us. They never care about change. And if it affects the bottom dollar and if it's between the people and money, like the gun industry and the gun lobby was with Columbine and school shootings, you're not going to win. We will justify death as Americans in the most heinous and unbelievable ways possible. And we're doing it with COVID. I've seen it with the Iraq and Afghanistan war and a few friends dying. I've seen it with the school shootings and how that's impacted this country. Nothing changes. It stays the same. And dead bodies do not change that. So I understand this is doom and gloom. I understand it's heavy, and I understand it's a real roundabout way to get back to the NFL, but this is real life, and I only know one way to talk about it. I'm a sports fan, right? But I'm also a fan of life and not being stuck in my house for 9 months and not watching continuous war and just, right? It's not about being woke. It's just about basic human decency. And the basic human decent thing to do right now is to not play fucking football. And if you're going to do it, you don't do it without a bubble because you're impacting a lot of lives. Yeah. And you're making it mean for me not to be able to go to concerts. I want to go to concerts. I want to go out and, get brunch again and get drunk in the day and go play Sigma Derby at the D. You guys are fucking up my life.
So we've got a triggered folks or person on COVID here. AJ Real LLC says, stay home then. Well, you know what? McKinnell mostly is. I'm not. I believe there's nothing that will shut the NFL down. And I just had a comment up from Ryan Carhill about a player dying. I don't think that would stop it. They're just going to – this is actually – if you love football and you're like AJ and you just want everything to keep going on, and you know what? Hey, fuck it. If everyone around, communities keeps dying, even if it's at a lower rate, which suggests to me that you don't care if people die. This is actually a glass half full situation. The NFL will get even more serious about moving toward a bubble. Yeah. And you know what? The whether Bowen got it being Shane Bowen's a coach, whether he got it being sloppy or letting his guard down or not, he just fucked the rest of the NFL players and coaches. They will go into a bubble of sorts if there's more issues. They are not stopping the NFL season under any circumstances. They have money to burn. They will pay whatever they need to pay to still make their giant profit and fulfill their TV obligations. So football ain't going anywhere. And by the way, AJ was also saying do we want to shut everything down? No, we want it to fucking open up. McKinnell just said it. He wants to go to concerts. Today was great news. Now, I don't know if everyone can afford to get into the games and concerts, but the fact that Sisolak started to loosen things, and now we can let 10% into venues that have 2,500 or more, that's a good start. We're moving in the right direction. But this is also a reminder to everyone who watches the NFL that, again, you need to be careful. But like Ryan said earlier, I almost called you Adam. Ryan said earlier, you could get it from something that's on your packages. I don't even know what I did, or I got an Amazon package earlier. I was all fired up, right? I'm touching all of it. I probably picked my nose 7 times after. So I probably, you know what I mean?
Steve,
you do. Everyone naturally is letting their guard down. So it's certainly not over. And listen, if you've had someone close to you experience it, then you have a healthy respect for it. My guess is if you have not, then you're probably letting up a little bit, and letting up is going to lead to bad consequences for us on the ground. But for the NFL, this is only going to strengthen their resolve and hopefully, give a kick in the ass to the Raiders, who seem to be kind of loose with the rules. It'll be a wake-up call for the Titans. It'll be a wake-up call for everyone. Everyone wants to make money and get paid. They're not getting rid of the NFL this season. They are finishing the season.
I'm glad you said this season. Maybe they pivot to a bubble. Maybe something like that happens. But the more you hear from the athletes that have been inside the NBA bubble and have been let out, and the more you hear from NHL players that have been inside the bubble and were let out, that sounded like a very unpleasant experience. Now, I said from the beginning, the only reason you got these players to sign up for the bubble experience was because they were chasing a title. You are not going to have sports next year, because the only way you can do it is in a bubble, as has been proven mostly, right?
Yeah.
You are not going to get NBA players or NHL players through their players association to sign up for a full season under a bubble. It ain't going to happen. Psychologically, it is not going to happen. Even if you allow their family to come for a short time or whatever the case may be, everyone's not relocating to a Marriott Inn, right? Or Marriott. These people make $20 million a year. They're just going to say, well, no, it was we chased the title. It was already in the playoffs. We were deep enough in the season. We'll chase the title. You expect me to go sit in an 82-game season in the middle of Florida, bass fishing in the same pond, stocked with the same bass every single day? You're out of your mind. These are grown-ass men. So enjoy your sports right now. And to Darren Waller and to Derek Carr taking photo ops without masks, yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's stupid. Yes, you could have potentially been a spreader event, right? But how about just the optics of it? You absolute dumbasses. Just the optics, right? I'm sorry. Was Arash Markazi's tweet from the Cosmopolitan a few months ago not bad enough for this city, right? Like, and all the other fights that we've seen, whatever. And I understand it. It's news. It needs to be reported, right? If you know that you're going to be on camera and you're doing a charity event, and you're the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, and you've got a COVID outbreak that has hit this city arguably as hard as any city in the entire United States of America, your video right there is a tourism clip, right? That is the image of our city. That is something that you are trying to portray. And you put that out there, huge mistake. Huge mistake.
Yeah, I don't agree with you, though, on not signing up for the bubble. I think you may
think
lose.
they do it? You think they do it for an 82-game season? You think they'd sign up?
I think there's a chance you could lose some guys who've made a bunch of money. And we saw that with baseball, right? David Price said, I'm out.
Who in the NBA hasn't made a bunch of money?
What?
Who in the NBA hasn't made a bunch of money?
Guys who were just into the league.
Shit.
You're right. You know what? The NBA might be the one case because they make so much money because of small rosters.
Right.
Right. There might be a lot more guys there. But baseball has a ton of guys who make a really good living, but they're not Mike Trout. They're not set for life. And you have to, Ryan, you have to realize the NFL, I mean, most of the guys, again, make a good living, but they're not making, not making Pat Mahomes money.
Yeah. And it's a short shelf life.
Yeah. And you can do a bubble and remain in your own city. When I'm talking about bubbles, I think the NFL could do it. The dangerous part is the travel, but you have a bubble within your own city. Yeah, it didn't sound like the NHL players enjoyed the bubble very much, and especially those guys. Apparently, Edmonton was real shit as compared to Toronto.
Yeah, I saw a story about how like some of the spreads were different for some of the different teams, and they felt like there was special treatment. That's what it gets dangerous. Like the whole thing became a pitch, right? Like Vegas was pitching for it. Edmonton was pitching for it. Then Mayor Crazy Eyes went on CNN and she was like, let Vegas become a petri dish. And then Vegas was out. You know what I mean? It became a circus. It became about like empty promises and false hopes, kind of like the Fire Fest, right? They show up and it's ham sandwiches and with cheese and shit. And everyone's like, well, the brochures had said that, that's kind of like the vibe I got from the NHL players. And it's not really that surprising. I'm not surprised in the sense that, I know the NBA players weren't happy at first, but it seems like when it at least compared to the NHL campus, it was paradise.
Yeah, and Brady has my back on the, when these things happen, then the leagues get serious and go to the next level because they want to make the money, they want to keep it going, and MLB did a pretty solid job over the last 6 weeks after jerking around with the Marlins and the Cardinals and. Who else am I missing? Braves.
The Clevenger and old boy from they went out on that night. Now they didn't catch it, but they went out and partied when they were back in Chicago. Yes, Brady.
By the way, that's why optics are so important. And I'll get to why the Raiders optics are important, not only nationally but also locally. But keep going. I cut you off. I hope I didn't break your chain of thought.
No, Steve. What did Brady just say?
He was saying that baseball got it right after taking it seriously.
Yes, thank you. I knew it was in response to that. Yeah, Brady is correct. They did, once they got into the swing of things, everyone, found some personal accountability and did the right thing for 60 games. Can they do that for 162? Yeah. I don't know. It's asking a lot, man.
Let's see. Side note, before I get back to the Raiders, I thought this was interesting because there was a little we'll throw in this comment. College football, Jim, I think is more challenging because they can't do bubbles. We'll see what the adjustments are. I don't feel like they've made adjustments to this point, and they've already had like 14 games postponed. And the fact that Notre Dame has another wave of 25 positive tests, and Brian Kelly's only excuse or reason is, hey, we screwed up and had a team dinner before the South Florida game. Like,
Brian, at least he admitted it.
Yeah, but at this point, if they're not taking it seriously, you're having a fucking dinner. No. You've already had like 2 outbreaks, dude. Cut it out. The dinner together and the whole team bonding thing at that point ain't that important before a freaking South Florida game.
Steve, we've done it. Could have been you or I.
I know. Yeah, I know.
That's the danger of thinking this shit is over. It's just, and I know we want to say it because, so we talk about us. It's just, man, it's really hard. It's really hard for everybody. It's hard for radio hosts. It's hard for people that are out of work. It's hard for people that have work. It's hard for millionaires. It's hard for the poor. We all experience was our one unifier, right? We could all do things together, like somewhat on a normal plane. Maybe you were drinking a little bit better of whiskey, but you were all drinking. You were all having conversations, playing cards, getting messed up, laughing and bullshitting. We all miss that, right? Having a team dinner, I'm sure they miss that. It's been months, right? And I'm not, believe me, I am not apologizing for Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a horrible institution in many, many, many ways. I grew up in South Bend. South Bend's my home. No one on Cofield and Company knows South Bend like I do. I can assure you that. And I'm not defending it. I'll just give Brian Kelly credit for saying we fucked up because almost at this point, that's all you can do because we're all messing up. No one is perfect right now. And to the person who said earlier to me, stay inside, then dude, I'm not staying inside. I'm not perfect. But it's also about what you're projecting, right? Like I'm not an anti-masker. I'm not as safe as I could be, right? But I try to project safety with what little influence I have as much as I possibly can, because that's all that matters. You're not going to see me in the store. You're not going to see me out eating. You're not going to hear what I say when in my private conversations. You're going to see what I post. You're going to see what I say in public. Right? That stuff is important. This shit right here from Darren Waller and Derek Carr it's not good, man. It's bad. Well, it's just bad optics.
And I'll tell you the biggest impact locally is the discord that they've stirred up amongst locals who don't like football. I saw a lot of comments. People are like, what the fuck is with these guys? I can't go to church. I can't go to this gathering or that gathering. And you know what? These people don't care about the Raiders. All they see is like a level of arrogance that they cannot comprehend. They're like, what is this shit? And listen, The Raiders are unique in the NFL for an obvious reason. They're new to the market. They're not an expansion team. There are a lot of people here. Don't forget, there are plenty of people who are like, yeah, that giant stadium, that's bullshit. I didn't want that in the first place. And the Raiders can come across with 100 cool charitable events, right? And unfortunately, most people do not pay attention. One thing like this, where they're in a room with 100 plus people and they're not wearing masks and no one is wearing a mask, that could take down all of the goodwill. I'm not saying it's going to take away the money because the Henderson fined Dragon Ridge all of $2,000 for its 4 violations. But you get what I'm saying here? They're still fresh to the market. They can have a major impact in Las Vegas. And there were so many people who were like, of course, football, this is what it brings. A level of irresponsibility.
Where's the lie?
They can do whatever they want. Well, I think the lie is, you know what? I don't know. I don't, because, you know, I don't understand. I don't understand why you would have a gala like this. And I don't want it to be like secretive and locked down, because you do want coverage for future fundraising benefits, but you know, the media is there. You know, people in the room are going to take pictures. You don't tell everyone to wear a mask. It's just stupid. And for people who are like, who cares? COVID's dropping. It's getting safer. The NFL cares. The NFL cares. So you can argue with us all you want. The NFL cares.
Yeah, it's not getting safer.
The optics for them, the optics for the National Football League are so gigantic. And now this is 100-plus person event that includes players without mask. John Gruden not wearing his mask, and then this last game wearing it like a beak towards the end of the game when he got frustrated. Investigation for unauthorized person in the locker room after the Saints game, and going back to the Saints game, Gruden not wearing the mask. It's just like the NFL is going to do something. They already fined Gruden 100. They already fined the organization 250. So, like, there are multiple people around the organization who are not getting it. And Mark Davis even told Vinny B today, I don't think this is, I'll paraphrase, seared into our memories. Is that really it? Or could we wean from this, Brian, that there are a lot of guys who, when they're away from the facility, are like, not a big deal. I hate to jump to that conclusion, but I do wonder what Derek Carr is doing on a regular basis.
Well, sure, that goes for anybody. It's hard to say, right, Steve? Because whenever we go into somewhere to eat or to have a drink, I mean, I'm taking my mask off right away. I'm putting it in my pocket. Like, you take a picture of me, it's going to look bad. But there's a callousness here, and there's an inability to read the room. Not no pun intended. To where it's, as you said, there's media in the room. Pictures are going to be taken. You just got fined $100,000, and the world is paying attention to COVID. And you thought it not to either tell media this is private function, don't tweet any photos or you won't be invited back. But again, if you agree to that, and I don't think you're media, it's a horrible PR move by the Raiders. It's just concerning from that standpoint. Like, what are you doing? Why would you even risk this? What are you gaining from charity to where it offsets the negative publicity, that you're going to get from this? And I zoomed in on that picture. Check out the tables. I saw one black guy in the corner over there. I saw a couple women. It is largely a bunch of nicely dressed white people, right? Yeah, over there by the pillar. Yep. There's one black guy. I think I saw another black guy in the corner and a few women. A lot of seemingly rich white people. And that doesn't make me particularly feel good, because I've been watching rich white people get away with whatever they want my entire life. And just from an optics standpoint, this is infuriating, because it's the billion-dollar corporation that has, essentially blood merchants that tried to bury CTE studies and didn't want to pay their legends more than the bare minimum that they could get away with. I don't like the NFL. I don't think the NFL is a good organization. I don't think they care about their employees, right? And it's that, the NFL coupled with, rich whites that feel like they can just congregate in a room in the middle of a pandemic because they have money and they can take maskless photos with the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, it's just, I don't know. It sucks.
Here's something else. And I would hope this goes through people's minds.
Yeah.
Rick was saying the only people wearing masks are the staff. Do you, when you do go out,
You mean the non-rich people? You mean the non-rich people, Rick? Yeah.
don't you feel an obligation? Like, I feel guilt sometimes when I'm sitting at a table and the server comes over and has a mask on. Like, we went to a local bar last night, and I'll tell you what, they're taking it seriously. They got partitions everywhere. They were like, hey, you cannot walk up to the bar and order a drink. We'll come out to you. And every time the bartender walked out, and this guy's not used to walking out and being a server. He's a bartender at kind of a grisly bar, and he walked out.
Steve knows too. Sorry.
No, he had a mask on. He was cool, but every time he walked over, I was like, "Fuck, man! Like, I'm gonna put on a mask. This guy's showing me respect. Why wouldn't I show him respect? I just can't. I can't imagine having a server repeatedly walk over to you, and you're just like, "Oh, you have a mask on. Well, that's your responsibility."
I heard a story about a really well-known, and here this goes back to what you're talking about, like with the servers wearing the mask. Servers wear masks because they have to, even if they're anti-maskers, right? They understand the importance of the brand that they're representing. So you can't work at a bar or a restaurant and risk getting snapped with a photo not having a mask on, because that influences the brand, right? I heard about a really popular Summerlin restaurant that my friend works at. And they recently had not a change in management, but a shift. As someone went away, a new face started making decisions. And this person is an anti-masker. And again, this is a really popular spot in Summerlin that I guarantee you, all of you know. They are not practicing social distancing. It's supposed to be whatever at the bar, 40 or 50%. She's like, oh, screw it. It's all good. Come in and pack them in. People don't have masks. The hostess or the front of the house essentially is denying service and saying you can't come in without a mask. Then they go to this particular person in power and they let them in. I'm just saying, this sort of stuff is so dangerous. Like, even if you are an anti-masker, even if you think that COVID is false, I mean, I think you're an idiot, right? But that's not really what it's about. My personal opinion aside is the majority are taking this seriously, and they're taking it seriously for good reason, because there's 200,000 people dead. A very close person, a friend of mine, not just a friend of mine, a family member of mine, just got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and they can't get in, not just diagnosed, but 8 months ago. And they need to get in for treatment, and they can't get in for 6 months because of COVID. So it's not just, right, the direct effects. It's a nasty, nasty ripple effect. And it's deadly serious, right? So if you have a brand like the Raiders or this restaurant in Summerlin, right? If you are anti-maskers, if Derek Carr is an anti-masker, cool, dude, let Jesus take the wheel. Yay, God is my savior. Whatever the fuck you want to do, it doesn't really matter, because you represent a billion-dollar corporation, and the majority of people understand that this is dangerous. You don't want to hitch your wagon, proverbially, right, to the anti-masks thing. Wear a mask. If you're getting photos taken, wear a mask. If you know there's going to be a video camera, wear a mask. If there's media in attendance, wear a mask, right? This is like free PR, and this isn't even hard. This is just baseline shit to do in the middle of a pandemic. Read the room.
Yeah. AJ was asking earlier, should they have let fans at the NASCAR race this weekend? Yes. 10%? Sure.
Okay.
Come on, Big Mac. If the capacity, whatever, 90 or 100,
sure,
you can't space 9,000 people. Sure. My guess is that, while Sisolak was thinking about letting 10% into Allegiant and Thomas and Mack and other theaters and T-Mobile, maybe the timeline was too short to, announce it, say, last Monday before the race. I don't know. That one seems strange to me. If if NASCAR and especially the track in Vegas could have benefited from, say 9 or 10,000 being at a track with 100,000 capacity, that would have been cool. But I don't know all the inner workings and the politics. It's not even the politics of it, the inner workings and the logistics. So, yeah, and there's Derek Carr taking a picture, and not good. Not good as a new member of the community. So they may fight back. And I saw earlier someone said, hey, all the Raider Nation trolls will go after the media person who sent out the picture and this and that. Who gives a fuck? Them, come on.
Boo-hoo.
I mean, I don't know if most of them are fake accounts, and they're I don't even know if they live here. I have no idea. What are they going to do? Go out and attack media? Shut up.
Yeah. Who cares? We're not wrong, right? I just laid it out. Like, even if you're on the side of anti-maskers and the don't be a pussy and live free. Okay, fine. Right. But you understand that the numbers speak, right? You do believe in numbers, right? You do believe in numbers, right? I hope we still believe in numbers. I cheated my way through high school. Algebra 2 was a senior, right? But I still believe in numbers. I still know what they represent. And the majority is on the side of people that recognize that this, pandemic is real. It's bad business. So
what do you think about this one? Oops, wrong one. Will concerts open? They can't, right? Actually, will big shows open as well? Big shows and concerts with venues of like 2,500, 5,000, or 10,000, right? They're not going to open to let in 500 people or 1,000, right? How can they make it worth the musicians' while?
No, you're not. You might see special select shows with limited capacity for certain artists, people willing to pay a premium. But no, man, really all this is a, it's kind of a, I guess, culmination of us not caring about this pandemic, right? We're going to get people back in places and the flu season's about to come. People are going to get sick again. This thing is not going away on November 4th. It's here to stay. There is no vaccine. There's no vaccine in sight. So
what about this? If they could control social distancing and say Sam Boyd while it's around, if you could get 3,000 in Sam Boyd, is that worth doing a concert?
Sure. Let's think about the artists I've seen at Brooklyn Bowl. Jack White, Run the Jewels, Method Man and Redman, Jimmy Cliff. I've seen a lot of people at Brooklyn Bowl. That's not more than 3,000. You charge a certain price. You get people out there. You're going to get a nice premium. People want to go out, get fucked up and enjoy live music again, right? Like, so people will pay for it. Yeah. I hope we see some version of that. Specifically outdoor. Yay, Vegas. We have a leg up on that because we can do that pretty much all year round. So we need to get creative. The music industry, everyone needs to get creative. Yeah.
But is it wrong? So if musicians, let's just talk concerts, right? And then we'll get to sporting events. If musicians came in, and I know concerts are expensive already, but if you could do a show outdoor with 3,000 people and lowest ticket is $200, are you going to be pissed off at that group, at that band, at that act?
No.
If they price
there's people out there that would pay it. Depending on the band, I might pay it. It's a big might. I mean, $200 is a lot for any show, but I paid it before, for certain festivals and certain shows. So, I was looking through my ticket book. I've got something like 400 or 500, between 400 and 500 tickets. I've been going to concerts every summer since 98, 99. And every few months I was very fortunate. My parents were super supportive of the arts. Like, I didn't get toys and like video games and all the shit that I really wanted. But when it came to like art and like music and like movies and film, like I could sweet talk my family into letting me experience that shit, right? So I got the bug for concerts early on. This is by far the longest I've went. So yeah, and there's other people that, concerts and live music are a big part of their lives. And the same thing with sports. You open up the Vegas Golden Knights game to that capacity, right? And you let, I don't know what the number would be, a couple thousand, people would pay a premium. They would. Yeah, exactly.
4,000 a seat if they only allow 1,700. Put that aside. Get back to concerts. Rick is asking the same question I asked earlier. How can bands make money though? Well, they're gonna have to be like, much of American commerce. You have to deal with supply and demand. You have to deal with restrictions to a venue, and then you have to answer the question as a band. Say it's $400 a ticket, only 2,000 people can get in. Hey, here's what you're gonna make, and then like the rest of us, you decide if it's worth your while. Right? Well, everyone is affected by this. The only ones, lots of people are affected by this, not everyone, in terms of salary reduction. Right. The athletes are going to be affected by it down the road too. The next time we're talking salary cap adjustments, those who have guaranteed contracts are going to be okay. Those who are free agents are fucked. They're going to make a lot less money. And for the music business, you have to decide if making 1/8 of what you normally make is worth it. And my guess is there'll be a lot of bands who are like, yeah, let's do it.
And I think
you're making less, right, Ryan? I'm making less.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I could walk.
Well, but like, we're not dissimilar to the musicians, right? We're having to get creative, find other ways to make money. I mean, I've always been about that life.
Do podcast in the middle of the night.
Sure. But again,
we appreciate you guys watching with us.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I go back to like 13 years ago when I started out here, man. Like, it wasn't just writing. I came out here to be a sports writer, but I realized that wasn't just going to pay the bills. So I started to learn photography. I started to learn video editing and audio editing. Because if I was going to have access and I was going to be a credentialed member of the media to the UFC, which I was at the time, I mean, I still am, but that was my in, right? So I had to make myself sellable. Same thing applies to musicians, right? So if you look up there, that Lamb of God album cover right there. So Lamb of God streamed some concerts over the last 2 weekends. Essentially like on demand. They were specially filmed. But what they did is they offered a package for fans. So it was like both streaming events, 2 concerts, 2 different albums they played in their entirety. It's not really important, but for the package, you also got a special event t-shirt, and you also got that album or a drum head signed by the band. And it was like $70. So it was 2 specially filmed concerts, a shirt, and then an autographed drum head by the band. That's, relatively, I don't want to say like inexpensive. It's expensive. It's $70. But if you're a fan of a band like that, for the autographs, for the access to the exclusive concert, for the t-shirt, that was kind of a creative, fun way to kind of bridge that gap. And I think bands are going to have to do that. And maybe, okay, Steve, so if you have a concert at Sam Boyd, maybe you also offer a streaming option, right, locally for a reduced price, like maybe $10 a ticket. And then you sign in with your area code to make sure you're geo-mapped, so you are within the region to sign on, right, within the city. So then you have 3,000 people live, but you also have 15,000 people spending $10 on a stream that is done right. You don't half-ass it. You do it fucking correctly, so everyone who pays gets their view, and you don't overprice it. Fairly, $10. You plug it in the HDMI, you turn it on your TV, and you feel connected to the people down the street. Maybe you see them in the grocery store the next day, or you go out to a common place. You can talk about it. Maybe they were there, and maybe you watched online, or maybe you both watched online, right? And if it's Beyonce, if it's the Rolling Stones, if it's Metallica at T-Mobile, if it's Garth Brooks, whatever the case may be, and if you only have access to it within the zip code and it's geo-mapped, that's something to be special. And if no one rips it, you can't find it on YouTube, and there are ways to do that, right? There are ways to make it very hard to pirate. I think you could have something really cool. And if you offer merch packages and autographs, you just got to get creative, and you got to offer people a bargain.
Look at you, right? 15, 20 million people watching around the world to a concert, a show. They can make money. And the other thing I would hope, if there is less money for musicians, the other thing I would hope is that they take these people into consideration. All the people who work around them, on a regular basis, and the people in all these towns who set up the shows, to get them a little change too, to get them back to work. So I hope that happens. That was a good idea. Good idea.
It's that's what's so great about I say like being an American, because I don't think it's like an instinctually American trait. I think it's a human instinct to adapt and to survive. And when your back is against the wall and when shit's really hairy and it's really gnarly, sometimes the best things have come out of humanity from that. Now, I am really not trying to equate that to like how musicians can make money during COVID. I think there's maybe some more pressing issues that we could, kind of get in front of. But I mean, it does apply, right? These are really hectic times. People are scrambling, right? And it's almost a comforting feeling that myself is scrambling much in the same way that Randy Blythe, the lead singer of Lamb of God, is, or people that people that you hold in really high esteem that are millionaires or whatever the case may be, and they're famous, right? That there is a unifying kind of bond of chaotic times which we're living, and the universal kind of theme of adapt, survive, change with the times, whatever the case may be. Again, it feels kind of bonding because everyone's kind of doing it. It really doesn't matter what your job title is. You're doing it mentally. You're doing it socially. We're all trying to survive this because this is not normal, right? Like where we've been doing all these shows, you're doing 5 days a week. You're not doing 4 hours a day. None of this is normal, but we're trying to make it as normal as possible. And we're trying to adapt, and we're trying to, stay with it and be upbeat, because life would suck any other way. I know people think I'm angry. I'm really not. I'm just mildly insane.
James says, "It's Sisolak, and let me see the Killers at the Owl for only $300 and only 7,000 people. He's in. All right.
Same thing.
Oh yeah. Alex tonight had a previous engagement. He's got a big family event going on, so he had to duck out. Let's close out with the NBA Finals. Juan, you sent over a tweet about LeBron being locked in as he's ever been. Was that a joke? What is it?
No,
I'll
it was
punch
just a
it up.
video.
Okay.
It was just a video.
What-
it was just a video of LeBron talking, because we were just talking about earlier in the show, right? About how the bubble was pretty, ruthless for people. That, mentally speaking, it was an arduous journey. I know that sounds crazy, like a bunch of millionaires. Oh, boo-hoo! But family's family. I mean, I would be pretty torturous having $80 million and being stuck at a Holiday Inn in Florida. I'd be pissed. I'd be thinking about all the cool shit I could do with my money. I digress. It was LeBron just talking about how mentally locked in he was. And I said it from the start. I think he had a lot to prove this season. I picked the Lakers to win the championship. I picked him to finish the top 2 in the Western Conference. And when I'm watching LeBron at 35, 60 years old, whatever the hell he is now, I see the best version of LeBron James. Like, this dude is an absolute freak. But do you have are you going to play it, or we just talking about the audio?
No, keep going. I'm going to download it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I only asked that. I only say that because as I was watching it, I started thinking about what I just said. If I had $80 million, what type of problem would I be? And what that type of money opens up, and that type of fame, specifically when you're with LeBron James. And right now, everyone's talking about Michael Jordan and everyone's talking about LeBron James, because obviously LeBron's now in his whatever 9th final out of 10 years.
Here, it's 10th finals. Here, let's break for a second.
Yeah, let's play.
I have a couple comments on this as well.
Okay.
Here's LeBron, and let me punch it up. Come on, old Gussie.
I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to compete for a championship. And that was my mindset once I entered the bubble, once I entered the quarantine process, the first 2 days. And then right from our first practice, my mindset was to, if I'm going to be here, make the most of it and see what you can do and lock in on what the main thing is. And the main thing was for us to finish the season and compete for a championship. So that's just been my mindset. Throughout these, I don't even know how many days it is. How many days it is, it feels like 5 years. So it really doesn't matter. But I've been as locked in as I've ever been in my career. I'm here for one reason.
We got it.
Yeah. I love that dude, Steve. Like, like when he talks, like the days thing was a real window into his soul, right? Like, he was like, however many days, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's whatever. It feels like 5 years. Like, that is a killer. Like, that dude, his opponents right now, right? Like the Miami Heat, they got another killer on the other side of the court, Jimmy Butler. I guarantee you Jimmy Butler feels the exact same way. They are there to win. They are there for legacy. They are there for ego. They are there to supplant themselves as some of the greatest players of all time. In LeBron's case, he is actually playing to be the greatest player of all time. People are going back and forth. You really don't hear about Kareem anymore. You really don't hear about anyone else. Magic, I mean, sometimes you listen to Paul Pierce every time, but it's really Magic and LeBron, it's really LeBron and MJ right now. And it just got me thinking, like, what would have Jordan been like in the bubble? Like, how mentally locked in would a guy like Jordan have been, who was, we just saw in the documentary with The Last Dance, Steve, this dude was dipping out, going to AC, blowing off steam. You can't blow off steam in the bubble, MJ. You can't be smoking your cigars and playing poker with your boys. I mean, maybe you can, but it sounds like a really shitty time at this time in the bubble. And a guy like LeBron, who, Jordan was eating fucking McDonald's and pizza. LeBron James is a pillar of physical health. Like, that dude is an absolute machine. Never gets injured, never takes a day off, is still flying through the air at 6'7", 6'8", whatever the hell he is, 270 pounds, looking like Brock Lesnar flying through the lane at 36 years old. He would have taken the Lakers to the playoffs last year if Gron wouldn't win out, right? Like, it's just, I can't believe what we're watching with this dude. And I know with the Jordan LeBron comparisons, I just started thinking, what would have Jordan been like in a bubble? I
think it's absolutely valid. Yeah. I believe with the eye on the prize that Jordan would have adjusted. Probably. He would have been an animal. He would have won titles. He would have out-mentaled everyone else in the bubble, which we'll get to in a second, because I think that's, someone was asking about the old asterisk, and this is going to happen all on the Embrace Debate shows, because it's an easy thing to argue the asterisk if these titles aren't legit. this should have an asterisk, but it actually should be given extra credit if you win a title and get through this, because it does suck. And we've got proof that it mentally broke teams. The Clippers broke. Doc Rivers is gone because maybe one part of it is he just didn't know what to do when the team started to get frayed and you had bad influences out there. And then Kawhi Leonard, who never says a fucking thing right after they get bumped, is like, yeah, a lot of bad things happen. real lack of discipline on my team. Like if you get that guy pissed off and he's calling you out, then there's a problem. The Bucks broke. There were teams that broke. And you're right. LeBron has a hell of a life. He could very easily break.
LeBron doesn't give a shit.
Dude, the Jordan thing it's only a guessing game. Yeah. But his existence in the 80s and 90s and into the early 2000s and what he would be dealing with now is fascinating. I don't know how he would have dealt with it. I think he would have dealt with it. But as you brought up in the documentary, there were moments where he's like, I can't stand all the pressure. I can't stand dealing with people. I have to get away. In a lot of ways, there is never getting away now as a pro athlete on the level of LeBron. It's coming at you all the freaking time. So an asterisk would be ridiculous. I agree with Gil the Thrill. There's great storylines in this finals. He's excited the Lakers are back. Who said it earlier about, 10th final? If he loses, this is his 7th loss. Like, I'm sure he's driven by that because he knows, if he gets to the finals like 12 times total and he goes 3 of 12, it's crazy. The guy won 3 titles. Well, people are going to be like, well, not that good. Like, he must be driven to get close to even because the more finals he loses, it's nuts. The standards he set, the more finals he loses, it actually chips away at his legacy, even though he made the finals. And the Heat are not. Listen, I have respect for the Heat. You have respect for the Heat. I think they're a really good team. And I think they're going to be a powerhouse down the road. But that doesn't matter. In LeBron's world, you win or you suck.
Yep. And as we talk about, matchups and going in the final, I love the Heat. I love Jimmy Butler. I love just about everything that the Heat bring to the table except size. And you just can't deal with Anthony Davis. What's Mark and LV saying?
He was saying that LBJ has moved past or beyond worries about Jordan comparison.
Yeah, I actually agree with Mark. I actually think it's Jordan worrying about LeBron now. And I've made this statement on my shows and on this show, Cofield, with the happy hour, that I do think that you see Jordan teaming with Bubba Wallace and starting that NASCAR team, right? You see Jordan donating to hospitals. You see Jordan being more outspoken on social issues, speaking up at owners' meetings, right? Establishing more of a legacy in terms of social justice. And let's not forget, as reported, I think by Ramona Shelburne, but the story is that Michael Jordan didn't sign off on the Last Dance footage, until the 2016 parade for the Cavaliers and LeBron James. Like, that was the day he signed off on the Last Dance. I think Jordan is more worried about his legacy than LeBron. LeBron's just focused on winning. Like, LeBron, I feel like is pretty comfortable in his own skin, right? He doesn't attack. He doesn't go after trolls. He doesn't respond to people. He's very secure in the person that he is. And again, I think it's rubbing off on Jordan a little bit, which I think is really great because it's cool to see as a Jordan fan, and I am. I mean, I saw him play at Old Chicago Stadium. He's the whole reason. I mean, I'm a massive Jordan fan. I love Michael Jordan. But, as I've gotten older, the cowardice of Jordan's legacy and refusing to be the powerhouse that he could have been, I thought that actually came through in the Last Dance as sort of an empathetic character. Like, it made me put into perspective that there is no LeBron James without Michael Jordan. Without Michael Jordan playing it safe and kind of going the Republicans buy sneakers route too, right? I don't think LeBron's able to come into this behemoth that is the NBA today and make the money that he's made. Michael played it methodically. I mean, maybe a little bit of cowardice, as I said, right? But I also think there was this.
You're right, dude. Because I've gotten pushback from others, and I think that's the right side to be on that. While you can get mad at Jordan and irked at Jordan for not being more vocal on big issues, he had to go into that world, the white world, and play it the right way to set up guys now, which is a great jumping off point for this. Because I got one last thing for you tonight. Jim Hill was on with us today, right? So those of those in the audience and who are not familiar with LA, you grew up in other areas. Like, I don't know. I think sports anchors used to be a lot bigger, 30, 40, 20 years ago. So you have your own guys in your markets, right? Jim Hill's fascinating because he played in the NFL. He got into sports reporting in the 70s. He's still doing it now. He's 74 years old. And he started down this path, and he kind of read my mind, if you can do that while we're doing an interview, where I wanted to go, which is the other giant feather in the cap of LeBron. I'm going to play the audio for you here. And think about, this is where, again, Jordan, I don't know what Jordan would have done. It is fascinating that LeBron, while in a bubble, trying to play at peak level at 35, 36 years old, is also standing up constantly during press conferences and after games to address some of the biggest ills in our country, and to handle that as an athlete. Like, I don't know. I'd walk off the court. Well, I think I say a lot of this. I'm repeating myself. Let me just play the bite for you here. This is Jim Hill, LA sportscaster, on with us today.
Watch him very closely, and if you watch him on his post-game interviews, he can be in a very, very tight, highly contested game.
Yep.
And someone will ask him about racial injustice, and he will give you the best answer you've heard all day.
Jim, that's exactly where I was going. I can't think of an NBA player, and I know Kareem was very involved in a figurehead in important business in the late 60s and early 70s. But to walk off the court, LeBron James, like 2 minutes after a game, is like, "Hey, what's your reaction to Louisville? What's your reaction to Kenosha? Did you hear about the LA sheriff is asking you for money?" I'm like, like any other person would be like, well, "What? I just want to talk basketball. This is nuts."
He not only is he very special. When I run across athletes like that, I call them a gift, and he is a gifted one, and he is a gift. Not only a gift to basketball, not only a gift to sports, but a gift to mankind. He knows his place. He knows what he is supposed to do, and he takes it very seriously. He is brutally honest. And the way, like I said, the way he handles himself is unlike any other athlete that I've ever known, simply because of what we're going through now. Other athletes would probably be helpful in a lot of ways, but because of what LeBron is doing and the way in which he's doing it, and the history that he is making in the NBA, he's at the top of the list.
There you go, Jim Hill. Longtime anchor in LA on CBS, was in Rocky 3. God damn it, I forgot to ask him about that. I love all the Rockies.
Isn't that the worst? When you get done with an interview and you got something really good, lay it on the table, and you're just like, dude, how did I let that happen?
Well, there was so much that I wanted to get into with him, because Jim Hill's also a fascinating guy. It's funny, off the air, Adam Candy, who grew up in the Northeast and probably isn't as familiar with Jim Hill as I am. And not that I grew up on the West Coast, but I follow broadcasting a lot, and try to think about it and try to think about people's, the way up and their place in society and the kind of impact they had. Candy's like, boy, Jim Hill has a gravitas with his delivery, right? That was kind of like, he's got long pauses. It's kind of regal. And then I immediately said to him, and I'll say to the audience here, you realize what Jim Hill probably had to go through breaking in to be a sports anchor and a sports media person as an African-American in the mid-70s? What do you think he heard from executives? What do you think he heard in terms of whispers around him in the 70s and 80s? So I really respected his opinion on what he's seeing with LeBron, for him to say, because you can have a lot of older folks, people of color, who fought fights in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, who are like, these fucking kids, they don't know what it's like. But Jim Hill, who had to work his way up, is giving respect to LeBron. To me, that says a lot. And then the other thing about the gravitas, like, you think about how you develop a voice and how you have to speak to people. Like, in some ways, I'm sure Jim Hill encountering people, right, not of his race, was like, man, like, I got to present myself a certain way, right? The crazy thing on that is, McKinnell, think about who did that also as a person of color in the sports world and was able to win over the people in power. Amazingly, he lives here now, and his legacy is destroyed. He did it to himself.
Yeah.
But OJ did that. But
Yeah.
OJ did that. But I just thought that whole thing was fascinating. That Jim Hill, 74 years old, is looking at LeBron. While we've got a lot of douchebags on the internet who are nameless and faceless, for like, oh, it's not that hard. Fuck him, loser. He's not a winner. He's spineless. Like, come on.
Yeah, man, we got Kyle Rittenhouse, a domestic terrorist, shooting protesters in the street. We got Heather Heyer getting run over by Proud Boy white nationalists in Charlottesville, right? Yeah, Jim Hill probably did see some crazy stuff. I mean, I know he did. He lived through the civil rights movement, right? And as you said, a black man, an African-American, breaking into an inherently racist and old white industry, which is sports, broadcasting in the 70s.
By the way, that would have been a great question for him too, to be like, Hey, Mr. Hill, what do you think about the progress we've made in 40 years?
That's my point.
In say like sports radio, which really only existed in one-offs, nighttime shows,
right.
post-game shows. But like, hey, what do you see in my field sports radio in terms of diversity? It's
how about what do you see in terms of improvement? What do you say in terms of improvement? And Jim Hill would probably say, and I don't want to speak for Jim Hill, but he would probably say, well, Steve, not a whole fucking lot. And then, right, you look at the president, and the president is backed by white nationalists. He basically represents the KKK. It's not that all Trump supporters are racist. It's just that all racists in the KKK are Trump supporters, right? And Jim Hill probably sees that. And if for all the gnarly shit that Jim Hill has seen, he also recognizes that, holy shit, there's a KKK member in the presidency. And LeBron James is standing up to that. Every single day, LeBron James is speaking on that. He's risking his brand. He's risking, the backlash. He's risking the DMs and the people responding to his Twitter, finding out his address and attacking his family and say, why don't you go kill yourself, and N-word this and N-word that and yada, 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 right? LeBron's a kid from Akron, Ohio. I grew up in Indiana. That dude's been dealing with that shit his whole life. That man is bulletproof, and I love to see it because we need bulletproof individuals with a ton of power who don't give a fuck, and that's LeBron James, and I'm here for it. I hope he wins every championship until Bronny comes along and they start winning championships together, and all these dorks keep crying about how they're not going to watch. Bitch, you didn't watch in the first place, acting like you're a racist. You weren't watching the NBA because it's all black players, right? You just didn't. You never cared about the NBA. The real NBA fans are here to stay, right? And they'll be here. And the real NBA fans, and I'm a Bulls fan. I don't really like cheering for the Lakers, but I will cheer all day for LeBron James. I wouldn't cheer against him in the finals against the Bulls, but I mean, I wouldn't be pissed if he won.
All right, good way to close. And I see you guys are talking, and I saw, about 20 minutes ago, you guys were mentioning that Caesars could be buying William Hill. Just to show how big the sports betting industry is, Caesars could buy William Hill for $3.7 billion. So I hope that's not bad news for especially the people on the ground, the ticket writers. When consolidation comes, people go bye-bye sometimes, so that would suck for Las Vegas. Also, I don't believe that consolidation is good for the bettor, right? Luckily, we have lots of outlets around the country now, and hopefully more move into the market. So that'll be big news tomorrow. And Carvelli, appreciate it. Barron's is saying it's 2.9 million or 2.9 billion. So CNN, fuck off. You have the wrong price. And that'll do it. And Ryan, nice job. Truce from Duluth. Yep.